Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I see some familiar faces. I know we have some new folks with us tonight. So we always appreciate you joining us. We know you probably had a long day at work. We're going to wait just a moment to allow a couple more people to come in, and then we'll get started. So we're going to hang out here for just a minute. Did you all receive the email that I sent out last night? I see thumbs up and yes. If not, we're going to give you the resources that I sent out in the email today. But it was just to kind of look through what we're going to be talking about. But we'll put that in the chat. And as usual, how these trainings go is we're pretty laid back. So feel free to raise your hand at any time if you have questions. Don't feel like you're interrupting. I like to have these interactive sessions, and this one is built to be interactive so that we can create an advocacy plan today that you'll be able to leave with. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome tonight to our last ECE Voices Advocacy Foundations training for now. These have all been recorded and are available on our resources page, and they're also available on our YouTube page. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from Nina Boothie. She is Every Child California's Executive Director, and she is going to give us an update this evening before we dive into how we want to advocate on all the things that are going on in this session with the budget and some pertinent legislative updates that can get us started. So I want to introduce you right now to Nina Boothie. Thank you for joining us tonight, Nina.
Thank you so much, Justina. And thank you, everybody, all of our wonderful ECE Voices advocates for not only being on this webinar and learning more about the budget and legislative process and how to advocate, but also for everything that you're doing throughout the year. Also want to thank Justina for being an incredible lead advocate for ECE Voices. She really is doing such an incredible job that ECE Voices is getting a bit of notoriety in Sacramento in the legislature. People are recognizing that ECE Voices is the Educators Advocacy Network and are very excited to hear from you all more. So again, just very, very happy to not only be part of ECE Voices, but to be able to present to all of you today. I know many of you have been part of a number of these ECE trainings, so thank you and welcome. And for those of you who are brand new, I'll be presenting a little new information here today as well, so welcome as well. Like Justina said, I'm the Executive Director of Every Child California, which is the umbrella organization for ECE Voices. They are a project of Every Child California. And what I do at Every Child California, amongst other things, is really look at the governor's budget, the budget in the state of California, as well as the legislation that affects early care and education programs. So as we look at the slide, the governor's budget proposal was released at the very beginning of January. It was released on January 10th of this year. There were some agreements made in this budget that were very, very good for early care and education programs. I'm sure many of you have heard that the state of California is in a deficit situation, and the early care and education field actually fared quite well when you compare it to other fields such as health and human services, corrections, transportation, other pieces that actually did experience some major reduction. So for the early care and education proposals, the governor does maintain the agreements that were made last year through the agreement with the Child Care Providers United. And this really says that all subsidized programs, all early care and education subsidized programs will be held harmless until June 30th, 2025, which means that all programs will either be paid the maximum reimbursable amount or the contract amount, whichever is less. And so that's very important given that there are still enrollment issues. COVID is still with us these days, and so we do know enrollment is not quite up to where it was pre-2029. As part of the governor's budget proposal, he also maintains a multi-year agreement and commitment to expand childcare spaces. This is a combination of many different types of spaces, such as the alternative payment program, as well as general childcare and state preschool program. Through the 5 years in which he will be doing this commitment, it will be fulfilled in 26, 27, so in a couple of years, where ultimately the state will be adding 200,000 spaces to help serve those children that are currently on the waiting list and are not being served. California has about 1 in every 9 children is being served, which means 9 children that are eligible are not actually receiving care. The governor's proposal also affirms a single rate structure. This is the reimbursement rate, a structural change that we're looking at. So rather than reimbursing based on regional private rates, what this would do is present a cost of care survey, acknowledging that providing care for lower income families, providing care in a subsidized environment does sometimes cost more than it would in a private center, and sometimes it costs a little bit more than the market rate can bear. As such, they are going to be looking at doing a cost of care survey. And we are right in the midst of this right now. I know Justina will probably talk a little bit later about some of the hearings that are happening around this alternate methodology. But one thing I would like to highlight is that the state had a deadline on February 15th to put out all of the different parameters around cost of care. So all of the different items they were going to be looking at, i.e., hours served, age of child, geography, quality assessment, adult to child ratio, et cetera, et cetera. And because the state has missed that deadline by a good 2 weeks now, the Senate is actually having a hearing this week on Thursday to talk about what the state's plan is now that it has missed that deadline. Why this is significant is because there need to be additional plans, hearings in place so that the public and subsidized programs can respond to the metrics that they are including as part of this methodology. And so if something has been left out, this is the opportunity for all of you to be able to voice your opinion that something has been left out. And having not as long as a deadline means that those public comment periods will be made shorter, which means all of us, all of those in the field will have less time to actually review and provide comment and feedback. There were some other minimal investments. There were some pieces around transitional kindergarten. Parents do still have parental choice to keep their children in their current subsidized early care situation if they would like to. And that was pretty much it for the governor's proposal for ECE programs. Like I mentioned, there are no cuts in this budget proposal. Certainly, we do not see a lot of expansion, but other programs certainly have been cut throughout the year, there are certain other programs that are being scheduled to be cut in the 24-25 year. We will know more around May 15th when the governor provides his May revise. This is something that he does every year. It is largely based on comments from the public, from the January budget proposal, as well as the legislature, as well as projections in terms of how the April taxes are rolling in, what either the budget surplus or deficit looks like in California. Next slide, please, Justina. So certainly more will come on the governor's budget. Next, we're going to look at some early care and education bills. So we are currently in the second year of a 2-year bill cycle. Every even year is the second year, every odd year is the first year. And so some bills in the legislature are carried over from that first year into the second year, which is when they're called 2-year bills, or legislators have the opportunity to introduce new bills starting in January. However, they have only 1 year to make it through the entire bill cycle, which means they need to be heard in both houses, the House of Origin, so either the Assembly or the Senate. Then they get approved, voted on the floor, and then they go over to the second house. So needless to say, there is a lot of time pressure for any bill that has been introduced in January, because you only have about 8 months in order to get that bill through the entire process, versus about 10 to 11 months when you introduce at the beginning of the 2-year cycle. You will notice that there are some bills on the bill grid that Every Child California provides, which are considered dead. That is a technical term. It is not something that we just put out there randomly. And that basically means that no more action is going to be taken on these bills. They have either stalled in committee, the author has chosen not to work on them for a second year, or they may not have made it out of the House of Origin, and then they were held in committee. So the 4 bills that I have listed here are certainly not the only bills that pertain to early care and education education programs, but they are the ones that are most precedent right now. The first bill here, AB 1930 Reyes, this is a bill that is allowing the associate teacher permit to be renewed after 10 years. So currently the associate teacher permit, which is required in state-funded programs, can only be renewed once. So after 10 years, if that individual who has the associate teacher permit does not get additional units, additional qualifications to actually become a teacher, then they would no longer be able to hold that associate teacher permit, and they would be demoted, if you will, to an aide or an assistant. This is very important for Every Child California, as well as Head Start Association. We are a co-sponsor of this bill, and we acknowledge that there are many individuals in the field who have a quite tremendous amount of practicum experience. However, for many, many different reasons, whether it be the general ed requirement, or they just have no interest in being the lead teacher, that they choose to stay at that associate teacher level. And we are really losing a lot of wisdom and expertise in the field by losing some of those associate teachers when they are not able to renew after 10 years. So that's the first bill I would like to talk about. The second bill, AB 596 Reyes, this bill is in its second year of the 2-year cycle. It actually went through both houses of origin. And it was parked there by Assemblymember Reyes because she knew she would want to use this bill as another vehicle for something else. It was originally as part of the rates proposal, which was adopted as part of the trailer bill language from last year. So what the governor did was actually take the language from AB 596, put it into trailer bill. And so it was adopted as part of the budget from 23-24. As such, the pieces that are currently in 596 are not valid anymore because they are already part of the trailer bill. And so what Assemblymember Reyes is going to be doing is utilizing that bill to decouple the amount of subsidized payment from private pay. So currently with the regional market rate, whatever the region can bear, i.e. whatever a private pay parent is paying, the subsidized amount cannot exceed that. it has to be exactly the same. So there are many places in California where either the private pay amount could be higher or potentially could be lower. And so this has actually led to a lot of programs having issues. And equally with the new rate cost model system, we certainly do want this decoupled because we want reimbursement rates for subsidized programs to be higher than what the regionalized market and the private pay would bear. Especially, we know for infants and toddlers, for some children with special needs, we absolutely understand that those reimbursement rates need to be higher. The other bill that I'm going to talk about is AB 1809 WIN. This expands eligibility for CalWORK recipients to 24 months from 12 months. All other subsidized childcare programs currently have a 24-month eligibility. CalWORks is the only one that doesn't. So this is what this bill is for. And last but certainly not least is SB 380 Limon. This was also an Every Child California co-sponsored bill. This was also used for the rates bill from last year. So equally like the Reyes bill, this language has been removed, put in trailer bill. And so now this bill vehicle is going to be used to lower age eligibility in CSPP to 24 months. So this would just be a permissive change for any program who wishes to serve children down to 24 months in their CSPP program. All of the various adult to child ratios, the factors associated with serving younger age children would all stay in place. It would just give programs who have both CSPP and CCTR a little bit more flexibility when they're looking at their funding, especially if they have more funds in their CSPP that they cannot spend. They have a waiting list in their CCTR. This will enable programs that are having that issue to be able to utilize this provision. All of these bills are very much in the early phases and will go through policy hearings over the next couple of months. Justina will be sending out to the ECE Voices Network, not only information on budget hearings, but also on policy hearings on these bills in particular. And last but certainly not least, if you go to the link at the very bottom, this is Every Child California's public policy priorities. I am sure you've seen these all before, but just wanted to link to them again so that everybody has reference to them. Justina, I'm not sure if we have time, but I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions at this time.
Yeah, now is a great time. You have a great resource with Nina being here and so knowledgeable about this bill, these bills and the budget, that if you have questions, now's the time to ask. So feel free to jump in and you can unmute yourself and ask those questions.
I did have a question about the AB 1808. This is one of them that's considered dead.
No, all of these bills on this list are active. 1808 is brand new. All of these are active. I did not include any of the bills that would not be moving through.
Okay, that's why I was getting confused. Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
these are not considered dead. They're moving through, but the 1930 and the 380 you're saying, or no, the 596 and 380 are going to be moving ahead under
with different language in them. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Brenda?
Hi, I'm listening in for Gabby because she's in an IEP. But I was hopeful and curious, and you may have said it, but I'm multitasking. The Reyes bill, decoupling the private pay, is that what I was talking about the other day? Like, so when I have private pay kids, I'm not going to have to collect that whole week's worth of items, a week's worth of pay for drop-ins type of schedule or whatever?
Yes, that is part of that proposal, Brenda. You're exactly right. So it will allow you much more flexibility to serve those private families. You will not have to follow the same rules as the subsidized side. Yes.
But I can still commingle.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. That would be such a solution, especially as we're having trouble keeping enrollment, that we can take in more money. But with the way the private pay is coupled right now, it's it hurts us to take even one child. So
Yep,
yes,
absolutely agreed. So that's why we're working forward on that, because you're exactly right. It's exactly programs like yours that we're trying to help with this decoupling.
that's exciting to hear. Thank you. So I just wanted to double check. It says, oh, I think that's exactly what my dilemma has been, found out to be this year and last. So yay, thank you. Definitely
Absolutely.
for that one.
Any other questions that anyone has while Nina's here with us?
And I'll also stay on a little bit longer as well. So if any questions come to anybody, I will be here too. So please don't feel rushed if something comes to you a little bit later. Well, thank you for the time, Justina. Thank you for the time, everybody else. Again, I will still be here, but just appreciate being able to see you all and contribute to some of your trainings here. And again, thank you for everything that you are doing, because the legislature really gets sick of people like myself. They see us all the time. And so to hear someone in the classroom, someone directly working with children, to tell their stories is incredibly valuable and incredibly meaningful. So again, thank you, everybody. And I will turn it back over to you, Justina.
Thank you so much, Nina. And if you think of a question, feel free to put it in the chat box. We'll all see it in there. And then if you think of something later after the presentation, you can always email us at advocacy@everychildca.org. This was a great example of why being part of an advocacy group is important, because you have people who are every single day living inside of these bills and these budget issues that can really break it down and to bite-sized pieces that can make it more understandable for you. So you can see what is it going to do for your program. And if you want to get behind it, then we give you the tools that you need to be able to advocate for those. So I'm going to go ahead and switch gears and jump into our training tonight. This might look familiar to a few of you that have been on the trainings before, but I wanted to start out very basic with what the goals of advocacy are, since tonight we're going to be talking about what does it look like to put them into play. So I sent out a poll and I said, what do you guys want to talk about? And it was, how do we write and submit a support letter? And how do we testify at hearings? So those are the two topics that we're going to go over. And as always, I will send this out to you afterwards. I will have it on our resource page, on our YouTube page, and I will list all the resources and links that you need to access any information that I'm going to be giving you tonight. So we start with the goals of advocacy. So why do we advocate for the issues? It's because we want to see change happen, and change happens through influencing our policymakers. So we want to create solutions to current problems that you're seeing in your communities and create public awareness of the issues that need to be changed, because we know the more people that you have standing up for an issue, the more attention it draws to that issue and more likely you are going to be heard. We want to express our views and our thoughts and our feelings on this. And what I'm going to show you is going to allow you to do those things. So effective advocacy starts with a solid and clear understanding of what your core values are, with a strong mission statement. So that helps when you have someone like Nina who can say, you know, AB 1930 means this for your program. You're going to be able to keep your teachers as associate teachers indefinitely. If this bill goes through and becomes a law, you won't have to be demoting them. I mean, that's so crucial for their employment and for your program and for stability of care for those children. And so that might be something that really sparks some passion in you and you want to get behind it. And then using the relationships that you have, or making sure that you're building relationships with policymakers so that you can have some good open communication with them. They don't always understand how these things affect your communities. That's up to you as the experts in these programs to go to them and share that information with them so that they can understand it. Those relationships are invaluable. I can't impress enough upon you how important it is to become a trusted source of information for your legislator, for your district. And so that's what ECE Voices tries to do, open up spaces where you can come together with them and have these open communication sessions and start building that relationship. Lastly, I'm just going to say we like to be loud but respectful. So being loud means showing up in force. That means when we go to hearings or we have letter writing campaigns or we're doing social media posts, that we do it in unison with the same voice, same message, so that we get our message across loud and clear of what you need and what change needs to happen. So let's jump right in to the steps that you need to follow. Let me make sure I'm on the right slide here. When it comes to writing a letter. And I just need to move my bar a little bit and then I'll get back to this. Okay. So the first thing, what I did here with this is I broke it down into an overview of everything that we're going to cover in the next few slides, because if your brain works anything like me, it's if you go over all this information, it kind of scatters it to all corners of my brain, and I need it to be nice and neat and concise. So we're going to go over what topics are being heard in legislature. So you just heard that from Nina. Those are some topics that are being heard. You're going to pick one of those topics, and you're going to write a letter about that topic. If you got my email, or if Jenny, you can put in the chat, there is an advocacy planning sheet that you can actually fill in while we're doing this, or just make notes on a paper while we're doing this, so that when you leave, you have an outline to a letter that you can send in. So if it's a general information letter, you're just saying, hey, this is my feelings about some topics going on in the ECE community, you can send that directly to your legislator's office and share that information with them. If it's a specific budget issue, and that budget issue is going to be heard in, education or human services, then you want to make sure you're getting it to that chair of that budget committee. If it's for a bill, so like let's say AB 1930, the Reyes bill, then you're going to want to send it to the committee chair that's hearing it. So when it goes through the hearing, they know that you're in support and why you're in support of it. So those are kind of the steps that we're going to go through next. So first is, what topic is important to you? And I just put a few down here. So what we're hearing from the field is the family fee capping at 1%, keeping it that way, because we know that expires in July of 2025. How about a mixed delivery system, making sure that people know that they can go to care in their community-based organizations, not just on school campuses, that we want to advocate for the true cost of care methodology for the reimbursement rate, funding for training for caring for special needs children in your facilities. And then I would like to hear from you guys, if any of these resonated with you, that you would like to maybe make a note for, that you're interested in writing a letter on. So if you want to put it in the chat or just share it with the group. And it doesn't have to be one of these topics. It could be something that you're already thinking about. Because what we want to do with these topics is we're going to go through like making some bullet points on it, so that when the training is over, you're ready to write that letter. Giving you a second in case you're shy.
I can share. Oh, okay. Somebody shared in the chat.
Okay, you can share too.
I was gonna say an issue that is really important in the Antelope Valley where I reside is the teacher shortage. Like, we really don't have enough educators for our area. A lot of childcare centers are struggling to hire teachers who have the minimum requirements for Head Start. And so what's happening is, despite the building of new childcare centers, they're still unable to meet the demand because they don't have childcare educators. So I think a topic that I'd like to get support around is funding for credentialing programs, training programs that could better prepare educators to take on these roles.
Okay, perfect. So
Just to meet the requirements that everyone is asking for.
So I want you to keep that in mind while we're going through these slides, that frame of mind when you're thinking through this. And then someone put the mixed delivery system and then the Reyes bill as well. So That'll help you when we're going through the next slides, when you're thinking about key points and what's important to share with a legislator. So next slide is write down some bullet points that's personal to you that you would share with a legislator on why you want to see that change happen. So you would write down a few things that you're seeing happen in your facility and your agency that's causing an issue that needs to be fixed. That can be fixed by the Reyes bill, that can be fixed by offering a mixed delivery system and making sure the parents know about that, and through the teacher credentialing and funding. And you always want to make that personal, because when you share personal stories with them, it resonates with them more. Which is why Nina was saying we can go there and share all the statistics, and we can go there and say, we know lots of families and providers that are struggling right now, but when they hear the actual story from you, it makes a big difference in how they process that information. So I put some examples down here as I was writing up these slides for family fees. So an example would be when families found out that they would have to start paying a fee after COVID, they told me they'd have to leave my care. They would have to stop going back to college. They finally had a place of their own to rent, and they couldn't afford it any longer. Now, these are all true stories. These are all things I heard while sitting in hearings from parents that were sharing their stories in 2023 when we first started this discussion about not bringing back that family fee after COVID. So it's really those personal stories that pulls at the heartstrings. So it's so incredibly important to be genuine with those. I'm going to move on to the next one. The next one is, what stats do you have? So these are things that you can get from places like Every Child California. We send out lots of polls and surveys to figure out what's going on in the field. We have one going out right now asking about the family fee implementation that we're going to be sharing with CDSS. That went out in an email around 4:15 today that you all should have. If you don't, you can reach out to me. It's called the Legislative Grid. It's at the bottom of the email. So for example, we did a poll and it got sent out and shared with just many, many organizations in many languages. 6,388 people filled it out, and 3,571, that's 56% of the respondents, stated that they would not keep their child enrolled in childcare if family fees returned at the same rate as pre-COVID. That's pretty powerful information. So you can imagine when you're sharing your genuine story of the pain that you're seeing in your agencies with not being able to hire staff, losing families, and then you pair it with these real life statistics, that you're going to make an impact on them. They're understanding, okay, our communities are suffering, change needs to happen. How do we do it? So you want to explain to them, just tie it all together in your letter, the impact on the families, the impact on the children, the impact on the providers, and the impact on California's economy. So when we go in there, we share, the families and children and providers are suffering. When you go in there, you say, this family named this, had this particular thing happen. They had to leave. I had a child in my care for the past 3 years that needed the stability. They can no longer afford to come. I lost them. I had 6 providers. I had to fire 4 of them. I can no longer afford to pay them, or they left for a higher paying, because we know that minimum wage for fast food right now is at like $20 an hour. I mean, that's a lot of money. So sharing those stories is very impactful. And then imagine what that does when families say, 3,500 families say, I can't work anymore. I got to stay home and take care of my kid, what that does to the economy. So I put together an intro to a letter to just kind of give you a visual understanding of what it looks like when you're writing to a legislator. There are a lot of template letters out there that feel free to use those. We send them out all the time. I just sent one out today. So when you use those, they work just as well. But I have heard from the legislators that it literally can be 1 or 2 lines of passion that they see, and that's really what they want to hear. So here's just something to kind of get the juices flowing on ideas. I put, my name is Justina Repelding. I'm an advocacy organizer at Every Child California. I work closely with subsidized childcare providers throughout California for almost 10 years. When COVID-19 began, fees for low-income families and subsidized care were waived, providing them financial relief and allowing them to use quality childcare to continue working during the crisis. When COVID ended, family fees were going to return. And we heard an outcry from families and providers of the impending catastrophe that was about to happen. To understand the true impact of charging family fees, we provided a survey in multiple languages, and over 6,000 families responded, with 55% of them stating they would disenroll their children from childcare. This survey represents a larger population of California, meaning we are heading for a financial disaster. Parents will not be able to work, devastating California's economy. Children will not be served in high-quality educational programs during the most important formative years of their lives, leading to future issues, and continue. So you can see how we kind of piece it all together with a personal story and some statistics. And, you have a whole page that you can fill out with your story. So it kind of gives you an idea. So additions to consider adding to your letters is, if your letter is about a bill, please include the bill number, include information about the bill. So Brenda mentioned that she wants to advocate for Reyes Bill 1930. Then she's going to put in here, I'm supporting AB 1930 Reyes Bill on teacher credentialing. And she's going to tie that together so that they know specifically what she's referring to when she's giving them all this information. So who's the author? What is the bill trying to do? A little background information on it. I put in here that if you even do a Google search on AB 1930 Reyes fact sheet, sometimes you get a fact sheet right there. Every Child California's Ledge Grid provides an explanation, a simplified explanation of what a bill means, because when you go to the California Bill Information website, it's going to be all the legal jargon, which can be hard to understand. And then a simple call to the legislator's office. It may seem intimidating, but it's super easy. They have someone who works at a desk that's their job is to answer the phone and talk to you. And if you say, hey, I just need to get a fact sheet on this, they'll email it over to you. They usually get it to you really fast too. And that will give you all the background information on that bill, any history that there is with it, what it's meant to do, so that you can put that information into a letter easily. And then if a letter is for a bill and it's been amended, it's really important that you state in the letter that you're still supporting it after the amendment date. So you include, I support this as amended on, because they don't know if you still support it when they made changes to it. So in here, I have connected a support letter. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. And you guys let me know if you can see it. Nina, can you see that support letter on the screen?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can. Yep.
Okay, so this is just to give you an idea. You put it on letterhead, right? You're going to put the date on there. If it's related to a bill, you're going to want to find out what committee it's being heard in, because that's who needs to know that you support it. And I'll touch base on that in a couple slides, because you're going to address it to whoever the senator or assembly member is that's the chair of that committee. So the Assembly Education Committee chair, that information is going to go here. And this is going to be provided to you so that you have it. And then again, if the bill's been amended, you need to state that there. And then just a quick breakdown of, here's your introduction, 2 or 3 sentences to tell the legislator who you are, where you work, what your job title is, and the issue and bill that you support, include that bill number. Give them some background information, share your story, and then conclude it. Always include your name and your phone number at the very least. Support letters should be 1 page long. Sometimes they go over, but just know that they're all super busy, so they appreciate those 1-pagers a lot. So if you can get it down to 1 page, perfect. If not, that's okay. We all send a 2-pager every once in a while. Does anyone have any questions about the support letters so far, since I've gone over quite a bit of information?
Justina, if I could add something.
Yes.
Justina does such a wonderful job providing all of you with all of the tools that you need. So if you find yourself having, you know, this is a lot, right? All you have to do is copy and paste this, put in your info, your address, you know, maybe a line about that. That's absolutely fine. There is no issue whatsoever with copying a template. That's why we have templates. And, you know, some legislators really look at some of the letters, others simply count the support, the opposition, and the neutral. So if you see this, and again, I know sometimes it may be, oh my gosh, we're all in tune, right? Not to copy and paste and just use it as our own. Well, this is one situation where 100% you can do that. So do not feel strange, even if they get a ton or the same. It is a-okay. They're literally counting them. So again, just wanted to say that in case you're feeling a little daunted about having to rewrite something yourself, just use all of the wonderful templates that Justine is giving you.
Absolutely. Templates are just fine to use. So this is for, you know, if anyone wanted to go out on their own and take ownership over some advocacy, this will give you all the tools that you need to do that. But we're always here to support you. I just pulled over the advocacy template because this kind of walks you through what we're doing right now. So you would just put a short description of the issue. I can't keep teachers hired and then put background information. How did that start happening? Why? What bills are addressing that issue right now? And we send out a weekly ledge grid that you can look through. And what are your priorities? What's important to you? What do you want to see changed? And then it just walks you through understanding what committee and chair it's in, because those are who you're going to address it to. So everyone's going to have this. You can use it, or like Nina said, you can just use, we do make it super simple. We make it just a click to the portal, your letter's there, you send it in, you're done. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. I know we're a little short on time tonight. So you have a letter, now what? So you're like, okay, I'm passionate about it, put all of it down in the letter. What do I do with it? Well, if you have it, a letter for the bill, where does it go? It goes to the committee. And, you know, where is it going to be heard at? Who's the chair? Where do we get that information? This is all information that is available to you on public websites. And we have Legislation 101 and Part 1 and 2 on YouTube and on our resource page as well. That'll do a deeper dive for you. But for now, I am going to show you this. Am I showing you this? Am I showing you the wrong page? I am going to show you this real quick and then show you another page. So we can go to the California Legislative Information page, which is going to give you the bill information. And then you take that over to the Assembly or the Senate page to find everything else. And I'm going to share that with you right now. So here we have the Assembly page. I'm going to start with the bill information page. So this is one that we've gone over before. Let's do the AB 1930 that we've been talking about. I type it into the bill number here, push go, and it tells me everything about this bill on the first page, but I really want to know what the status of it is. So I'm going to go to the status tab, and I can see here that it's in Assembly Education, and it's going to be heard on March 20th. So you see that there is just as simple as a couple clicks and you have that information. So what I do from here is I need to go to the Assembly page. The committees are all listed on here. I know it's going to the Education Committee. So I'm going to click on that and go to their hearings. And if I want to look at what's going on that day, it tells me. It says Wednesday, March 20th. At 1:30, they're going to meet on O Street. That's the swing space. If I want to double check that they're hearing that bill, it's right here. If you click on it, it takes you back to the bill information page. Okay. And if you want to see who you're going to send that letter to, you go back to the committee homepage. You're going to be sending it to Al because he's the chair of that committee. So having these bookmarked is just really nice. If you want to, take ownership of any of these types of things, it tells you here, you have to have your position letter in by 5 o'clock the Tuesday, the week before they have that hearing. So you know exactly the deadline is when you need to get that in. The last thing you do after you write your letter is you send it in through the portal. So we've gone through this and some other training, so I'll go through it pretty quick for you. But when you set up an account and you sign in, it'll take you to your account within this system, and it'll show you anything that you've already sent in. So you can see we've sent in our letter for 1930. And it's as easy as submit a letter. And what's nice about this is when you put in the bill number, so here you would select it's an assembly bill or it's a Senate bill. We know this is assembly. We're going to search. It says, okay, this is the bill, right? You say, yep, that's what it is. Go to the next page. And you say, are you going to send it in on behalf of Every Child California? So you can send it in on behalf of your agency. You can send it in on behalf of yourself, or you can even send it on behalf of other organizations if they need help with it. So if I say I want to send it in, it tells you exactly where it is. There's no guessing here. You don't have to figure it out yourself. It's in education, and it's also going to go to the author's staff. And then it'll have you select your file. You push support. You put, I'm supporting this bill, and then you send it in. It's that easy. And again, like Nina said, we'll send you the templates, and you still have to do this part with the letter. So you put it on your letterhead, and then you have to turn it in through this portal. And that's because it keeps it really easy and simple for the assembly member that's authoring that bill, keeps it nice and organized for them in a file. They don't like to dig through their staffers' emails to gather that information. So I'm just going to skip through these because we just did that live time.
Could I add one thing, Justina?
Yes.
Part of the reason why they ask us to go through the position letter portal, and it's not just us, it's everyone. There were a lot of spam bots were creating a lot of junk mail and what have you when they were sent directly to the committee's mailboxes. And so I think we all know we've all been having increasing spam and various other things. So by also utilizing this portal, it helps protect them as well. And so they really want us to use this portal. They will not get it oftentimes if you send it to their direct email.
Yes. Because, as advocates and us trying to get letters in, we would like to find a way that's super easy for you to push one button and get it there, but it's just not feasible with how the state of California tracks that information. But we try to make it as easy as possible. So that's it. You have researched your bill or your issue. You have found where that issue is going to be heard. You've put your information into a letter and you have submitted it through the portal. And that's it. You did it. You found an issue to advocate for, and you are now an advocate. So that covers the topic of a deep dive into sending letters of support. I'd like to answer any questions if you guys have any about that process. And then we're going to jump through testifying, and that shouldn't take too long.
Did you happen to mention if you have a training recorded on creating the account for the position letter portal?
I don't have one that specifically walks through all the steps of it, but I do have a PDF document that walks you through the steps, so I can send that to you, Carla.
That would be really helpful because I see questions like, are you a registered lobbyist? Please select organization from the dropdown autocomplete field. And I quickly tried it and it's not working.
Okay.
So that'd
I'll
be
get
helpful.
that over to you for sure. Yeah. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'm gonna
I have
move.
one more question, sorry.
Yes. No, go right ahead. Don't be
And
sorry.
then for the position letter portal, it would be best, it should be one individual account per person, right?
Well, I do it on behalf of Every Child California, but it is mine to use. Like I have my own login for it.
Right, so if I have a community group of parents, ideally I would want each one of them to be able to create their own account.
It is easier on you if they create their account because they can take ownership over submitting those letters. But if there's a lot of confusion on it, you can submit it where it says submit on behalf of somebody else. they can send you their letter and you can submit it for them.
Got it. Okay. I love the options. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We do that for some of our people too. And sometimes it's just a time issue, like they just don't have time to do it. So the second largest request that we got to cover the topic of is testifying at hearings. So I'm going to start right at the very beginning here, where I'm just going to talk about where you're going to be going. So the Capitol is located in Sacramento, as you all know, on 10th and L, and it's currently under construction. So it's a big mess over there. And so a lot of the legislators are now working about a block away on O Street in what they call the swing space. So if you hear someone talking about the swing space, that is the legislator offices that they're using, and they do have hearings there as well. Both locations require you to go through security once you're inside. And like Nina likes to let you guys know, it is not like going through the airports. Don't worry, keep your shoes on, keep your belts on, but you will have to remove your laptops. You do have to put your bags through a machine. You do have to walk through a metal detector. So just be prepared for that, because it's going to, you're going to need a little extra time. Parking downtown Sacramento is not fun. So give yourself, 20, 30 minutes before your meeting to get there, find a space to park, and then go through that security issue. Now, if you're in the swing space, the elevators can be quite slow. They are called smart elevators. They say, what floor do you want to go to? And then they assign you an elevator, and you go wait in front of that elevator until it opens and takes you. There's no buttons inside the elevator or anything. It's a little different. You'll get used to it. There's also stairs. So you can run up and down the stairs if you want to. And then I always like to let people know that there is a cafe on the 3rd floor. It does not serve full meals, but if you have a long day at the Capitol and you need a little pick-me-up, you can go grab a coffee, a drink, a salad, bag of chips, something like that. The Capitol also has one, I don't remember what floor it's on. I think it's up high in the Capitol, so that you can get yourself a snack as well. And linked on here is a map of the swing space so that you can be really familiar with it. And it's actually a quite nice building to have hearings and meetings in. So next, if you're like me and you're very visual, you want to know what it's going to look like. So I put a few pictures here that are actually from our Capitol and swing space, of the different rooms that you would go into to attend a hearing. So you can see the legislators sit in the back at those chairs. During the hearings, they kind of come and go based on their schedule. It's not usually full, like you see in that bottom picture there. And then you see the people sitting at the table in front of them. Those are the people that are there to testify. So when we talk about testifying, we're talking about you have been notified ahead of time. And I probably have this on here. Yes, when you testify, there's no surprise, right? You have been contacted by the legislator's office, an advocacy group, someone in your agency, and they say, you are an expert in this area. I want you to share your story. So you'll be prepped way beforehand with talking points. You'll be given the exact date, time, and location. And when you get there, you will meet up with whoever's asked you to be there. Usually it's an advocate group that's going to be meeting you there. Like if I ask someone to come, you're going to see me there, and we're going to sit together, and we're going to make sure you're comfortable until it's your turn to go up and talk. So when you testify, you actually just sit in the audience to begin with, because when you go to a hearing, it's not just about that one bill. They're going to cover a whole list of bills. And so when it's your turn, the legislator that's authoring that bill will stand up. So they'll call that bill number out, they'll stand up at the podium, and they'll give a little spiel about what that bill is for. And at that time, someone's going to invite you to either come up, go behind a door, and sit at that table. And since COVID, sometimes it's a little bit different, and they might have you, instead of going all the way up front, stand at a podium behind a plexiglass window with a microphone. So you never know until you get there which one it's going to be. You can read off your talking points, but it is nice if it's a personal story and you really know it, if you just make eye contact with them and connect with them while you're testifying. That's always a nice touch. And then I put in there, The legislative staff is usually in there with with their legislators. So if it is really full, it's not usually all legislators, it's staff members too. And it took me a second to figure out what was going on because I was like, why are these people on their phone? And it's because they're keeping track of everything that's happening for the legislator and they are communicating with them throughout the hearing. So don't let that distract you. Don't think that they're not interested in what you're saying. They just need to be informed constantly of what's happening because things move and change so quickly for them. And then, like I said earlier, the legislators have crazy schedules. So you could be giving a presentation and someone gets up and leaves. Don't worry. The rest of them are going to be there to listen to you. They have all the letters and they've heard everything. So you're still being listened to and they are going to vote on it at the end of that, discussion about the bill. So speak from your heart and share your personal story. When you do it, it's easier to remember so that you're not, here on your phone or your paper, but you can connect with them. Testimony is often limited to a 3-minute time span. Sometimes if it's a really long hearing and they're running out of time, they'll say, you've got 2 minutes. So I always tell people, be prepared to cut that down, like know what you can cut out so that you can make it within the time limit. When you're there to do testimony, they're usually pretty lenient on that and their understanding. If you're there for a Me Too statement, which is not testimony, that's just standing up at the end saying I support, and you start going off on a long story, they will cut you off and they will tell you, no, don't do that. Just say your name and your agency. When you're done testifying and the legislators are done discussing the bill, they might ask you a couple questions. It's okay if you don't know the answers, you can tell them you'll get back to them with that answer. And then you are free to go either back to the audience, and a lot of people are just like, okay, my bill's done, I'm leaving. Then they can go back to work and be done with that part. After you're done, the public gets to comment on that, like what I just said. They get to stand up and say who they are. I was going to play some of those videos for you, but I know we're really short on time, so I'm not going to do that for you, but you'll have access to them. And I put time markers on it so you can see what it looks like when a legislator talks, when the testimony happens, and when the Me Too happens. Okay, so I put pictures here because this is one of the women who does a lot of testifying. She runs a child care facility in Sacramento. Her name is Maria, and she's highly dedicated to speaking out for the ECE community. She went to a few hearings last year, and that's her sitting at the table and reading and talking to the legislators. Down below, you see me and Val Dinero from Every Child California. That's us standing at the podium. So we're either doing testimony at the podium or we're saying Me Too. So if you want to testify at hearings, contact a legislator that's authoring the bill and let them know that you're interested in doing that. If you're part of an advocacy group like ECE Coalition or ECE Voices, just let us know and let them know that you're interested, because we're always looking for people to bring in and share their stories with the legislators. So we want to get a diverse message out there and share everyone's story. So finally, I've just put in here, use this opportunity to shed light on your issue publicly by taking pictures. You're already there in the Capitol, you're with the legislators, go ahead and snap a picture, put it on social media and let people know what you're up to and get them interested in supporting you. So if there's media there and you've been coached and you're comfortable on what to say and talk to them about, you have, well-prepped talking points, feel free to take advantage of that. But if you are talking on behalf of a whole group of people like ECE Voices or ECE Coalition, you're going to want to have permission from them first to make sure that the message is clear and in line with the goals and priorities with that group. So I know we're a little bit over. That actually concludes our deeper dive into giving testimony and writing letters. So if you'd like to ask me any questions, feel free. And we still have Nina here, so if you have any other questions for her, you can let her know. Been a long day. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you very much. I hope this was helpful. I'll send out all the resources, and you'll have access to look at, we did 10 trainings. So you'll have access to look at those trainings and ask any additional questions that might bring up for you. And we have hearings coming up for budget issues on April 24th and 25th. Those are listed in the legislative grid that I sent out tonight. So you can check those out. And if you're interested in testimony, or if you're interested in sitting in there and saying me too, let me know and we'll go together. And then look at the bottom of that email for the feedback that we send out that we're trying to collect for CDSS on the family fees. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a really wonderful night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.